materials are literally going up in space.
I had an opportunity shortly after college to work for NASA Goddard in Greenbelt, Maryland, where I was designing, manufacturing, and integrating thermal blankets for spacecraft, or their spacecraft that we were building. We have some that have been to the moon. We have a lot on space station, supported JWST, which most people are familiar with. There's not a lot of companies that do this, so we've been fortunate in having our hands in a little bit of everything. I love the intersection of science and artists, and we have that at our office. We have a whole team of more traditional engineers and a whole team of creatives.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Gene. I'm your host, Laurie Barkman. Each week, we'll hear from founders and CEOs to explore key decisions they've made for growth, value creation, and challenges along the way. This show is sponsored by the Business Transition Sherpa, offering entrepreneur advisory services from transition to transaction. Don't forget to hit subscribe, follow us for the latest episodes, and visit thebusinesstransitionsherpa.com for more exclusive content. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Entrepreneur Gene. This is an amazing guest. You're going to be so impressed by her. She makes clothes for spacecraft. Yes, I know that's a big oversimplification, but let me tell you, she has turned her love for sewing and fabrication into a business that makes thermal blankets for the aerospace industry. So her materials are literally going up in space. She's previously worked with NASA and has experience designing and developing thermal blanket systems for critical aerospace missions. Wow, CEO of AeroThreads, welcome to the show, Aleks Bogunovic. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Very nice, warm welcome.
I'm excited to be with you. We have a lot to talk about. Let's dive in. Aleks, you've come on the Entrepreneur Gene, so this won't surprise you for our first question. Is there an entrepreneurial gene? And if so, what does it mean to you?
I think yes. I think for me, it means willing to take risk, stepping out of your comfort zone, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I think it means grit, having the grit to follow things through until the outcome that you need.
Tell me about that. Do you think that some people just they're not as resilient, times get tough and they bail?
Yeah, I think that that's the case in some people. I don't know if it's a nurture nature or a little bit of both. I think back to how me and my siblings were raised, and our parents pushed grit on us. It was required to get up and just keep moving, wipe yourself off or brush yourself off and whatever it took and just keep moving forward.
When we had talked in preparation for the show, you had shared that your parents had immigrated to the US. Tell me a little bit more about that and some of that influence that you think that may have had on your grit.
Yeah, so my mom was born here. Her parents immigrated post World War II. My dad was born in Serbia. He immigrated in his early teenage years. My grandfather actually immigrated here, my father's father and his family, to become a physician in the States and start a sports medicine practice in Milwaukee. So we grew up around entrepreneurship, struggling, having to figure out how to start something, build it, sustain it, and keep moving. It was very much a family affair. Everyone at some point worked in the office. So it was something we were all part of growing up.
Yeah. So there's a grit gene, is what we've learned. So let's so let's talk about challenges as an entrepreneur. You're leading a very complicated business. I'm sure it's very technical. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But in general, as we are entrepreneurs and founders leading these companies, we're facing challenges. What are some of the biggest challenges that you're facing right now, Aleks?
Right now, our biggest challenge is just the growth of the industry. The aerospace industry is growing and commercializing, which means it's changing and it's doing it at a rapid pace. So it's keeping up with that, evolving with it, and maintaining a certain amount of calm for the team as a whole.
How big is your team right now?
We're just over 40.
Over 40. So as you're growing and changing, what are some of the moving parts that are really important to keep your finger on the pulse?
So there's a lot of them actually. So I think for me, having I'm a founder CEO, so it was just me from the beginning, and I've grown with the company has grown around me and with me over the last 11 years. I think the most challenging thing is continuing to elevate myself and my role in the business, but not losing touch of the critical metrics that each function in the business needs to elevate to me so that I can keep my hand on the pulse. So it's that evolution that's challenging for me personally.
Yeah. So there's a transition in the organization.
Mhm.
What are some of the transition points? Is it right people, right seats? Is it just, how do you go from 0 to 40 and now I don't know what the next trajectory would look like? What are some of those key pieces that as CEOs, I'm sure people listening can relate. How do we step into that change and lean in and make sure it's the right thing for your team?
Yeah, good question. I think there's always the right people, right seats, and that question doesn't go away as you grow. Some people that were in the right people in the right seat at a company of 20 may not be in the right person or in the right seat at a company of 50 or greater. So that's something that you're constantly looking at, and it evolves with the company. It's continuing to add headcount and people to the team without impacting the culture in a way that isn't intended. So that's a challenge in and of itself. It's keeping up with the operational processes and procedures so that you can continue to scale in a controllable, expected way. Those are some of the biggest challenges I would say to start.
So, if you were going to give some advice to other CEOs and entrepreneurs who are facing similar challenges, feeling the people growth challenges, what's some of your advice? You mentioned processes and systems. Anything else that comes to mind?
Processes and systems, being aware of your organizational structure and if it works for your next phase of growth. We recently went through an org shift at the beginning of the year to set ourselves up for this next wave of growth, and what worked 2 years ago isn't necessarily going to work 2 years from now or even currently if the organization is changing and growing. So you need to stay ahead of that and be thinking, what does AeroThreads at 100 people look like versus AeroThreads at 50? Where does this process break? Where does this org break? And being aware of the fact that they will break at some point. Like, just because you built it and it worked doesn't mean that you built something that was wrong or didn't work. It will break as you grow, and that's okay.
And that's okay. And I think some of the other transition challenges that I hear from owners is that, oh, key employee left, right? And that put a big hole in the team. Have you set your leadership team? And if so, have you had any changes where any particular departure just felt like that old tango where you just take one step forward, two steps back?
We've definitely had that in the past. Recently, we actually changed over most of our leadership team by choice, which creates its own challenges. But since it's happened in the past and we've seen how detrimental it can be if you don't plan for the exit of a key employee. We plan keeping that in mind, that we don't have key employees or single point failures as much as possible, so that the organization and the company is stronger and we're not reliant on one person, one process.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I'm curious about how you are looking at the future because you're in a future oriented industry. What excites you about the future of the aerospace industry and the role that AeroThreads can play in that ecosystem?
Yeah, good question. I mean, the whole industry is exciting right now. It's growing globally in ways that we've never seen before. So that in and of itself is exciting. We see new customers popping up every day, every week, every trade show. There's new customers in the aerospace community that are building hardware that didn't exist a year or two ago. So that's both exciting and stressful because you it's hard to plan. Like, your pipeline is constantly evolving, the size of the industry is growing. That kind of pace is exciting for me, but it's not for everybody. So that's both exciting and stressful.
Yeah, absolutely. When you talk about the aerospace industry, you're serving commercial primarily, not some of the space tourism, or are you also serving space tourism?
We're not really serving much in terms of space tourism. The products that we build and design, they are on spacecraft that live in space. So space tourism isn't living in space. But we work with commercial industry, government, DoD and non-DoD government. We have an international customer base, and we work with a lot of universities. So we're really well diversified within the aerospace community.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, we've talked a lot about things that you're teaching us a lot, which we really appreciate, Alex. So that's awesome. I want to learn a little bit more about you. Can you tell me a little bit more about the Alex origin story? Give me the highlights from what brought you through your experience becoming a maven of materials for the aerospace industry.
Yeah, I will do my best. So, I guess going back to high school, college timeline, I have a fine arts degree. I went to MICA in Baltimore. I have a fibers degree. I really always just enjoyed making things. I was always pretty creative. Like most art school kids coming out of high school, I did a lot of painting and drawing. At least in my generation, there weren't a lot of like graphic design and sculpture and all of these fun new things that high school, art school students get to do. So came out of high school painting and drawing, decided to go the art school route. Really enjoyed it. I enjoy the creative aspects. I always felt that there was something missing in terms of purpose for me. I liked to make and design things that had purpose and utility beyond just the aesthetic side of things. Not that that's not important, that just didn't fuel me. And so I had an opportunity shortly after college to work for NASA Goddard in Greenbelt, Maryland, where I was designing, manufacturing, and integrating thermal blankets for spacecraft, for their spacecraft that we were building. It was a really, really great opportunity. I was very, very fortunate to be there at a time of, I think, real feast. They had a lot of missions going on at the same time. The first mission that I supported when I got there was Hubble, the last servicing mission. And then there was a dozen or so of other missions that I supported over my 6 year period there. That gave me both understanding of an industry that I didn't even know existed, which is super exciting, that used all of my skills and provided me that fulfillment that I wanted in creating things that had utility and purpose. But they were also well crafted and very creative, required a lot of creative solutioning. So yeah, that's really how I got my start. And then once I was at Goddard, I realized that I wanted to be in a different work environment. It just didn't exist. There wasn't a lot of other options for me to go out and to create thermal blankets for another company. I went back to school, back to MICA, got my master's degree in entrepreneurial business. It's a program with Hopkins, and AeroThreads was my thesis. So decided to give it a shot, and here we are 11 years later.
Wow, that is amazing. It's such a cool thing. I think I read somewhere that you were knitting and you're is that something as a kid that you were always, doing your interest in fabrics and making things?
I was always making things. My grandmother, both of my grandmothers actually, they did a lot of needlepoint, crocheting, a lot of handwork. It's something that I grew up around and always saw, and it was something that I also enjoyed doing. So I learned how to do that from my grandmothers. I did that in college. I actually have a loom in my basement that I haven't used in quite some time, but I always enjoyed making things with fabrics, pliable,
Yeah.
soft sculpture.
It's just cool because it's material science, but it's also all kinds of materials, right?
Mhm.
You have this multi-layered garment, if we could call it that, for the out, right? It's on the outside of the craft, or is it also on the
It can
inside?
be on the inside. It can be on the outside and the inside, and it's made up of many layers of material. Often, there's times where it could be one or two layers, and there's times where it could be 20 or more layers, depending on the requirements, the thermal requirements.
Gotcha. And I don't know if you're allowed to share who some of the clients are, or maybe you could paint a picture of where these fabrics have been. Have they been to the moon yet?
We have some that have been to the moon. We have a lot on space station. We've supported JWST, which most people are familiar with. We're pretty well all over the place. There's not a lot of companies that do this, so we've been fortunate in having our hands in a little bit of everything.
That's amazing. That's amazing. When you made that decision, you went back to school, you got your master's, you wrote a project, a business plan. There's a decision point of do I go do this, do I not? What was that for you? What was that point? Did you have a mentor encouraging you saying, this is something, or did they all go, you're crazy?
No, I actually had a mentor, one of my professors in grad school. I had kind of pivoted from this idea because it just seemed too big. Like it was like, who am I to think that I'm going to compete with a NASA center? And they're really, the industry wasn't at the size or even near the size of what it is now to support the growth of an AeroThreads. It maybe supported a single person company, but it definitely at that time did not support the size of our company as it stands today. I had a professor, Bill Wernick. He was my business management professor, and he was in the GovCon side. And when it came time to be in his class, and I told him what my idea at the time was, which was my other passion, which had to do with cooking and potentially starting a restaurant, and then what I was currently doing and maybe interested with the AeroThreads space side, he really encouraged me to think strongly about that and to not discount my ability to compete with large and experienced companies and organizations like NASA. And it gave me enough encouragement to actually go out and say, okay, I'll finish my business plan, and my whole thesis will be on this, and we'll see where I go. I'm not cutting any checks right now. So by the end of it, in creating this whole business plan and actually having to walk through every piece in detail, I felt really comfortable and confident going out and saying, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot.
Awesome. If you were going to go back in time and give yourself some entrepreneurial advice, what would that advice be and when would it be?
I think one of the things that I think of often is learning to trust your gut, even if you don't understand it. Even if I can't justify it or I can't explain it, listen to it, pause, and trust which way it's pointing you at least. That's something I wish I would have told myself earlier, and I remind myself of that frequently.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm curious about purpose. It's a question that might naturally come up, like why are we doing what we're doing, right? And sometimes our purpose is aligned 100% with what we are saying our purpose is in our business and our purpose outside of the business. As you think about your purpose in the business, Aleks, how would you describe it? What's the big why? If you love the insights on this show, you'll love the insights I share in my book, written for entrepreneurs like you who are building with your exit in mind. Take the next step in your business journey to make your business more scalable and valuable. Head on over to btsherpa.com/book to grab your free digital copy of the Business Transition Handbook. Or you can also click the link in the show notes, btsherpa.com/book.
I think the big why for me is building a well-oiled machine that creatives and engineers coexist in one space and create this high reliable, very creative bespoke solution. I love the intersection of science and artists, and we have that at our office. We have a whole team of more traditional engineers and a whole team of creatives, and watching to see how what they come up with, and the solutions that they come up with. It's always so impressive and amazing, and it's shocking to me that I'm still overly impressed every time. Like, not to say that they're not amazing, it's just I've seen it so many times, but it always amazes me.
Yeah, that's the magic, right? Bringing together the creative and the technical
Yeah.
to create an amazing solution for the client. I'm curious about inspiration. Who inspires you or what inspires you, whether it's a book you've read, a movie you've seen, a TED Talk? What's giving you that inspirational light?
Honestly, I think it's just my how I was brought up in my family. Like, my they worked really hard to be able to create something as first generation Americans from the ground, and gave me and my siblings such tremendous opportunity and support while doing that. And I just feel this huge responsibility to pay that forward in some way, to replicate that and to carry what they've done forward. That's my biggest inspiration. And like most of my grandparents, most of them have passed. I have one grandmother still alive. My dad recently passed, so took me up a little bit. But it's just knowing that they would be proud.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. And that's a big motivator, right?
Oh yeah.
Did Do they inherently understand what you do? I can ask from experience because my mom never understood everything I did.
No, not at all. I mean, even to like just the weeks before my grandfather passed, every time I went home, he would ask me the same question, like try to explain to me what it is you do and why does anyone need this? I'm like, I don't think he ever figured it out, or I was ever able to communicate with him in a way that it made sense, but we tried.
We make sure that our space vessels don't burn up in space.
Yeah,
Outgoing or coming back.
exactly.
Yeah, no, it's like it's really fascinating, and I haven't yet seen your facility. I
Yeah.
think I was at your office for it was your office, but not I didn't get to go on the tour. If you do go on the tour, what is something that what do people see when they go into the AeroThreads space?
So our labs, so we have some really nice clean rooms that all the parts are manufactured in, all the blankets. That's really fun to watch because it is a very hand process. Like it's that artisan crafty process. Our design team, it's without looking on their screen, it's a collaborative group of people that work in an open pit environment. I'll say another thing that you see is people genuinely like to work together. They're a very collaborative team. They work really hard and they're always busy, but they're also relaxed at the same time. It's not like a place where your hair's on fire. So that's really nice. It's just a really pleasant vibe in the office. We also have a very strong snack culture, so you'll see snacks everywhere.
So I want to ask about passions outside of work, and I'm going to lead you on this one a little bit because you told me ahead of time you have some guests with you in your room, and you're like, hey, if they're making too much noise when I'm talking, just let me know. I do hear them sleeping. So who's in the room with you right now?
I have Penny and Jim, my two French bulldogs.
A very little light breathing is coming through the mic. No, it's cute though. That's adorable. What else do you do for fun? Are you just working all the time, or do you have any fun at all?
So, good question. That's actually one of the things that I prioritized this year with New Year's resolutions. I'm not generally big into those, but one of the big pushes in Vistage was for us to have a balance in life, and it can't all be work. So, I've recently gotten on the sourdough bandwagon. So, that's a new passion of mine. Scaled up my sourdough operation to making like 15 loaves at a time just to see how does it go from one loaf to scaling to 15 in case I ever decided to make a micro bakery, which has been really fun. I really enjoy that. I've also been really into gardening, so that's something newer that I've started to do. And traveling, to be honest with you, I've been doing more traveling than I used to. So those are my current passions, and my family's another one. I spend a lot of time going back to Wisconsin, where I'm from, and spending time with my family. I have 9 nieces and nephews, and all my siblings, my aunts, my uncles, everybody's back in Wisconsin.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. What did I not ask you that you would love to talk about, Alex?
Could always talk more about sourdough. It's a big thing right now.
Yeah. So is it bread or bagels or all the above?
It's everything. It's everything. So I dabble in like the bread and the discard recipes. So it's been fun. Actually the office has gotten into it. So I make it and I bring it into the office constantly. So it's been feeding that snack culture.
Sourdough is a good bread, I gotta tell you.
It
It
is.
is.
It is. And it's the nice thing about it is it's reminded me to like slow down and really focus on process again. So there's some parallels with the like work lessons and some of these hobbies is like the importance of patience.
Yeah. And gardening too, you gotta have patience. Let's
Exactly.
talk about gardens because I'm a garden nerd too. I'm not always very good at it, but I watched the Martha Stewart documentary. Did you see that by
I did.
chance?
The one
Okay, what did you like it? Did you enjoy it?
I did.
Yeah, one of the things I liked it too. One of the things that she said was if it's not serving you in your garden, get rid of it.
Yeah, that's good.
And I was like, wow, Martha said that? I have permission to rip that thing out that I planted all those years ago that's just not doing well there. By golly, I've been working on that. I'm like, Martha said so. I can do this. And it kind of like freed my mind of like, oh, just because it's always been there doesn't mean it has to continue to exist, right? It's that old saying, like, if we keep doing what we've always done, we're going to get what we've always got.
Yeah.
So I had this whole other philosophy on planting perennials. Went a little bit early. I live just north of you in Pennsylvania, and our cold season still
Yeah.
lingers on sometimes. And I was like, screw that. I'm going to the garden center because I got to beat everybody else and I got to get the plants I want. So I come back and of course I couldn't plant everything. It took me so long to get everything in the ground. But then I was realizing too, I should plant so that I'm thinking about the sun direction,
Yeah.
not just the design of the bins or design of whatever. So I think the point would be, how has gardening opened your mind?
Good question. I think a lot of it's like slowing down and planning and thinking about purpose. Like, why am I doing this? What do I look to get out of this? Does this serve my ultimate goal with this gardening season? I think the biggest thing is the planning. Like, it's in a company that's growing, it's easy to get caught up in the day to day churn and just keeping up with everything that's going on. And to step back and really take the time to slow down and think through, why am I doing these things? Does this make sense for us? If not, when does it make sense to make changes, not just reacting? I think that's one of the biggest things with both the sourdough and the gardening hobbies, that it's like reinstilled in me.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's a good point. Aleks, thank you. We've talked about a lot. We're going to wind down the show now. And I think in the close here, I want to make sure to give you some time to share how people can find you in case people want to connect with you. What's a good way for them to do that?
Good question. I would say reach out to me on LinkedIn. I have my LinkedIn handle is a Bogunovic at Aero, just a Bogunovic, I believe.
Okay. And we'll put that in the show notes as well so that people can find you, because I know the last name might, be something they have to look up. So that's
Yes.
okay. But also AeroThreads, they can find you because AeroThreads is the website for your company. Now, if people are in the aerospace industry, of course, they've already heard of AeroThreads. But if not, I'm sure people want to check it out. Um,
We have a contact us page on the website, so you can always reach me through that as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Aleks, thank you for being on the show, taking your time, sharing your experience, sharing your wisdom, and this fascinating business that you are building. And congratulations on all the growth. I've known you now for a couple of years and cheering you on from a distance, but I'm absolutely rooting for you. This is just an incredible business.
Thank you. Thanks, Laurie.
And so thank you to all of our listeners. Thanks for tuning in to the Entrepreneur Gene. Be sure to follow the show and follow us not only in your favorite podcast player, but also on our YouTube channel, The Business Transition Sherpa, where you can get all the videos from not only the Entrepreneur Gene show, but our sister show, Succession Stories. This has been another wonderful episode. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Hey, that's a wrap. This show is sponsored by the Business Transition Sherpa, working with entrepreneurs who want to escape feeling like a prisoner in their own business and to eventually let go flawlessly. If you loved today's episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. And if you want to help support the Entrepreneur Gene, I'd encourage you to leave a rating and review. Ratings and reviews truly help our show grow and get in front of more entrepreneurs just like you. If you do leave a rating and review, we'll be so happy. Take a screenshot of it, send it to my email, Laurie@btsherpa.com, and we'll send you a free digital copy of my book, The Business Transition Handbook. And we'll also enter you to win one of our monthly swag boxes. For show notes, including links to everything in today's episode, be sure to visit btsherpa.com. Also, as a reminder, you can watch this full video interview on our YouTube channel for the Business Transition Sherpa. While you're there, be sure to check out videos from our award-winning podcast called Succession Stories. We'll see you next time on The Entrepreneur Gene.